What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is just another critic, and obviously, as you can see, we're headed into week 12 college football predictions with the championship for the conferences right around the corner. I'm just going to go ahead and review last week's predictions. Week 11, we first started off with Mississippi State versus Alabama. I went ahead and gave the final score Alabama 45-17. Obviously, Tua not 100%, sat out the fourth quarter, rightfully so. Bama came out with a shutout, 24-0. Second matchup we covered was Ohio State versus Michigan State. My final on that was Ohio State 31, Michigan State 20. It was a close game till about late in the third quarter where Michigan State began making mistakes, which led to the Ohio State victory. Moving along, last game was Georgia versus Auburn, and my final score in that game was Georgia 27, Auburn 17. Final in that game was 27-10, I believe. So pretty close on the scores. Moving along into this week, I'm covering two critical matchups that actually have college football playoff implications. And in those matchups, we're going to start off with Syracuse versus Notre Dame. Now, in this matchup, Notre Dame holds the edge, obviously, in the head-to-head with a 3-2 record versus Syracuse. Syracuse, now, this is no team to sleep on. Syracuse is a really good team. A lot of people think they're ranked a lot higher than they should be. I'm kind of one of those people that shares that opinion. I still think they're a good team, just not sure they should be top 15. Now, Syracuse is offensively very dynamic with a pretty good passing attack, but more importantly, they've got a dual threat quarterback in Eric Dungey. Now, Dungey, he's accounted for not only 12 touchdowns on the ground, but he also has 14 touchdowns through the air. Now, if which I did, look up the stats, this guy actually has more carries than all the running backs on the team. So he's running the ball, he's passing the ball, he's basically their main guy. Notre Dame, on the other hand, have been more dynamic on offense than they have been in the past. I don't think they'll have, very, many issues as far as putting some points on the board versus Syracuse. But defensively, I think they're actually going to be tested by the Syracuse offense, not only because of Eric Dungey, but also because of some of the other talented guys that they have on this team. Um, but in this game, I believe this game will come down to the fourth quarter, and Syracuse will come out victorious with a big upset at a terrible time for Notre Dame. Obviously, closer it gets to the playoff, the bigger a loss is seen on your resume, so to say. But yeah, if Notre Dame loses this game, which I think they will, final score Syracuse 34, Notre Dame 30. I'm not so sure Notre Dame will get into the playoffs because it's just going to be chaos because Notre Dame beat Michigan. Michigan's a one-loss team. Notre Dame would be a one-loss team. So we're just going to have some chaos, but we'll let the committee figure that out when we get to that. Moving on to the second matchup, we take a look at the AAC, excuse me, and pretty much a high-powered offense in UCF, as everyone knows. Mackenzie Milton. They're going to take on Cincinnati, which is probably the biggest game of the season for both sides, especially with the game being the featured game of College Game Day. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the primetime game on ESPN. UCF, a phenomenal team. They've pretty much barely escaped multiple defeats versus Memphis and Temple because, truthfully, their defense isn't nearly as good as they were last year. And if you watch closely in that Pittsburgh game, Pittsburgh was much closer in that game than the score shows. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, their defense really just isn't nearly as good as they were last year. Cincinnati, on the other hand, defensively have been much better this year, allowing just 14 points a game, and really just allowing 100 yards on the ground a game, which is solid for college football. Now, like the previous matchup I covered in the Syracuse and Notre Dame game, I believe this game will come down to the fourth quarter with UCF down by a few points. Um, However, I don't see UCF escaping defeat this time around, and I've got Cincinnati winning. Final score 41-38. Once again, Cincinnati beats UCF 41-38. And so basically, in these two matchups that I've covered, I've got two upsets for this week. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. These are the two biggest games really coming into this week. You got other, the top four teams that are playing. They're playing some cupcakes, so didn't really feel like covering those. Obviously, as always, if you agree, drop a comment. If you don't agree, drop a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your opinions. Let me know what you think. If there's any other matchups out there that you think should have, been mentioned, let me know as well. With that being said, guys, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe. This is just another critic signing off, and we'll catch you in the next one.